The great hall of the Galactic Council was quiet. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in their floating seats. Some had wings, others had tentacles, and many looked nothing like anything from Earth. They all waited for the next speaker. Ambassador Zethkar walked to the center platform. His 4 arms shook as he moved. His skin was green and covered in scales. 3 eyes looked around the room with fear. He had traveled from the outer edge of the galaxy to bring this message. Council members, Zethkar began. His voice was loud, but it trembled. I come with urgent news. A new species has joined the stars. They call themselves humans. Some beings in the crowd made noises. A few laughed. New species appeared all the time. Most were weak and easy to control. These humans are different, Zethkar continued. Their ships ... I have seen them with my own eyes. They are not like our ships. They are not like any ships in the galaxy. Counselor Vexania floated up from her seat. She was made of living crystal. Light moved through her body like water. She was very old and had seen many new species before. Ambassador, she said with a voice like breaking glass. Every frontier governor says the same thing. They find a new species and think it will change everything. Tell us what makes these humans so special. Zethkar's 3 eyes darted around the room. He was sweating now. Their ships look old and ugly. They use simple metals, no energy fields, no living parts. But when they move... He stopped talking and took a deep breath. When they move? Asked another council member. This one was tall and thin with blue skin. They should not be able to move the way they do. Their ships are too heavy, too simple, but they fly faster than our best ships. They turn when they should break apart. They do things that our science says cannot happen. The crowd started making more noise. Some beings laughed louder now. Others talked to each other and pointed at Zethkar. Impossible, said General Korvash. He was the leader of the Imperial Navy. His people had the strongest ships in known space. No primitive species can build ships better than ours. We have had space travel for 10,000 years. That is what I thought too, Zethkar said. So I sent my best ships to meet them. 5 of our finest vessels. Each one could destroy a small planet. The room became quiet again. Everyone knew about the hegemony ships. They were famous across the galaxy for their power. What happened? Asked Vexania. She was not laughing anymore. They talked to my ships first. The humans, I mean. They were polite. They said they wanted to explore. They asked for safe passage through our space. My captains laughed at them. 5 alien ships asking permission from 1 human vessel. Zethkar walked in a small circle. His feet made clicking sounds on the platform. My ship surrounded the human ship. It was small and looked like it was built in a junkyard. Pieces of different metals welded together. No smooth lines like our ships. My captains told the humans to surrender. And they did? Asked someone from the crowd. No, Zethkar whispered. They said something I will never forget. The human captain said, "You have 5 seconds to move away from us. After that, we will consider you hostile." More laughter came from the crowd. The idea of 1 small ship threatening 5 warships was funny to them. My captains opened fire. Zethkar continued. Full power. Enough energy to melt a mountain. The beams hit the human ship and ... He stopped talking again. And what? Demanded General Korvash. Nothing happened. The ship absorbed our weapons, like a sponge absorbs water. Then it moved. Faster than thought. In 1 second, it was in front of us. In the next second, it was behind my flagship. It did not fire any weapons. It did not need to. What do you mean? Asked Vexania. It rammed my flagship. A ship 1/10 the size destroyed the pride of our fleet by flying straight through it. The metal of their ship was not even scratched. The great hall was completely silent now. Even the beings who did not speak were not making any sounds. The other 4 ships tried to run, Zethkar said. The human ship caught all of them in less than a minute. It did not destroy them. It disabled them, and it sent a message. What message? Asked the blue-skinned council member. The human captain apologized. He said he was sorry for the damage. He offered to help repair our ships. He said his people did not want to fight. They just wanted to explore and learn. General Corvash stood up from his floating chair. This is nonsense. No ship can do what you describe. You must have made a mistake. I have the recordings, Zethkar said. He touched a device on his belt. Above his head, images appeared in the air. They showed space with stars in the background. 5 large, beautiful ships surrounded one small, ugly one. The crowd watched as the 5 ships fired bright beams at the small ship. They watched the beams hit and do nothing. They watched the small ship move like liquid lightning. They watched it tear through the flagship like paper. When the images ended, nobody made any sound for a full minute. How is this possible? Whispered Vexania. I do not know, Zethkar answered. But I learned more about them. I talked to traders who have seen human space. They told me things that make no sense. What things? Asked several voices at once. Humans have only had space travel for 50 years. 50 years. Most species take thousands of years to leave their home systems, but humans spread across their local area in 5 decades. Zethkar started walking in circles again. They build their ships different than anyone else, where we use the best materials. And newest technology, they use whatever they can find. But somehow, their ships are stronger than ours. Have you learned how they do it? Asked General Corvash. The traders told me something strange. They said humans spend most of their history fighting each other. Not like our small wars. Real fighting. Planet-wide battles that lasted for years. They fought with everything. Rocks, metal, fire, chemicals, even splitting atoms. The crowd started making nervous sounds. Most species had small fights, but nothing like what Zethkar described. For thousands of years, they fought on their home world. They got very good at destroying things. Very good at building things that could not be destroyed. When they finally stopped fighting each other and looked at the stars, they brought all of that knowledge with them. You mean their ships are built for war? Asked Vexania. No, Zethkar said. Their ships are built by people who know war better than anyone in the galaxy. There is a difference. They do not want to fight. But if they must fight, they know how to win. What do you suggest we do? Asked the blue-skinned council member. We must set up a barrier around human space. We must not let them expand further. We must study them carefully before we make contact again. General Corvash laughed. You want us to fear one small species? The Imperial Navy has 1 million ships. Even if their technology is good, they cannot have many vessels. The traders said they counted human ships in their space. Zethkar replied. In 50 years, they built over 100,000 vessels. They are not exploring slowly. They are spreading fast. 100,000 ships in 50 years? Vexania sounded shocked. That is impossible. It takes us decades to build one proper ship. Human ships are not like ours. They are simple to build, but hard to destroy. They make them fast and make them tough. The great hall buzzed with worried voices. Council members talked to each other in dozens of languages. Finally, Vexania called. For quiet, we will vote on Ambassador Zethkar's suggestion. All in favor of establishing a quarantine zone around human space? Only 12 beings raised their hands or tentacles or wings. All opposed? Hundreds of beings responded. The sound was like thunder. The motion fails, Vexania announced. We will treat the humans like any other new species. If they prove to be a problem, we will deal with them then. Zethkar looked around the room with his 3 eyes. His fear had turned to sadness. You are making a mistake, he said quietly. When you meet the humans, remember this day. Remember that you were warned. He walked away from the platform and left the Great Hall. Behind him, the council members returned to their normal business. They talked about trade routes and mining rights. They forgot about the warning, but in the Outer Rim territories, human ships continued to spread among the stars, and they were coming closer every day. 3 months passed after the Galactic Council meeting. Most beings had forgotten about Ambassador Zethkar's warning. Life continued as normal across the galaxy. Trade ships moved between systems. Warships patrolled their territories. Scientists studied new discoveries. Captain Zarathul was one of those who had forgotten. She commanded the bioship Endless Growth, pride of the Cathara Collective. Her ship was alive. It breathed, it healed itself, and it could grow new parts when needed. The hull pulsed with soft green light. Tentacle-like weapons extended from its sides. The Cathara were proud of their biotechnology. While other species built ships from dead metal, the Cathara grew their vessels like plants. Their ships could adapt to any situation. They could change. Their shape, their weapons, even their purpose. Zarathul sat in the bridge, which was more like the inside of a giant flower. Soft walls curved around her. The floor felt warm under her feet. Everything glowed with bioluminescent patterns that showed the ship's mood and health. Captain, said her sensor officer, we are detecting unknown ships at the edge of our space. Zarathil? 4 arms moved over the living controls. Images appeared in the air, above her head. 3 ships hung in empty space near the boundary of Cathara territory. They looked strange. Instead of smooth curves, they were made of straight lines and sharp angles. Instead of glowing with life, they were dark metal with small lights. How ugly, said her weapons officer. They look like they were built by children playing with scraps. Zarathul studied the ships more carefully. They were smaller than her vessel, but seemed heavy. Their hulls were covered with strange bumps and projections. Some parts looked newer than others, as if the ships had been repaired many times. Have we seen this design before? She asked. No, Captain, replied her science officer. The computer has no records of these ships. They do not. Match any known species. Send the standard first contact message, Zarathil ordered. A moment later, her communications officer nodded. Message sent, Captain. We are broadcasting on all frequencies. The standard message was simple. It told new species about the power of the Cathara Collective. It explained that they must submit to Cathara authority or face the consequences. Most primitive species surrendered immediately when they saw a Cathara bioship. Captain, the communications officer said, we are receiving a response. Put it on the main display. The air above Zarathul shimmered. An image appeared of the inside of one of the strange ships. The bridge looked nothing like a Cathara vessel. Everything was made of metal and plastic. Lights blinked from dozens of control panels. The air looked cold and harsh. In the center of the image sat a human. Zarathul had never seen anything like it before. The creature had only 2 arms and 2 legs. Its skin was pale pink. Hair grew only on the top of its head and above its eyes. It wore simple clothes made of fabric. But what surprised Zarathul most were the human's eyes. They were small and dark, but they held no fear. Most species showed terror when they first saw a Cathara bioship. This human looked calm, almost bored. I am Commander Sarachun of the United Earth Ship Defiance, the human said. Its voice was flat and direct. We are passing through this system on our way to the galactic core. We will not interfere with your activities. Zarathul laughed. The sound echoed through her living bridge. Creature, you do not seem to understand. This is Kaithara space. You must request permission to enter. You must pay the transit fee. You must submit to inspection. The human's expression did not change. We're not asking for permission. We're informing you of our intentions. We will continue on our course in 30 seconds. Impossible, said Zarathul's weapons officer. 3 small ships cannot challenge the endless growth. Zarathul agreed. Her ship was one of the most powerful in the Kaithara fleet. It had weapons that could melt asteroids. Its living armor could adapt to any attack. Its bioplasma cannons had never failed to destroy an enemy. Human, Zarathul said, you will surrender now, or we will destroy your primitive vessels. Commander Chun leaned back in her chair. For the first time, she smiled. It was not a happy smile. You can try. The transmission ended. The human ships began moving toward Kaithara space. Battle stations, Zarathul ordered dot throughout the endless growth. Alarms rang. The ship's living systems responded. Weapon tentacles extended from the hull. Bioplasma chambers began charging. The adaptive armor shifted into combat configuration. Captain, said the sensor officer, the human ships are not slowing down. They are accelerating. Scan them for weapons, Zarathul commanded. Scanning. Captain, I cannot identify their weapon systems. The ships are heavily armored, but I see no obvious guns or missile ports. All ships have weapons, said the weapons officer. They must be hidden. Zarathul watched the human ships approach. They moved in a straight line, not trying to avoid the Kaithara vessel. Their formation was simple but tight. They showed no fear, no hesitation. Captain, the communications officer reported, I am receiving messages from the human ships. They are talking to each other. Can you translate? Yes, Captain. They are discussing tactical positions. One ship is telling the others to watch for plasma discharge and maintain formation integrity. Zarathul felt a small chill. The humans were planning for battle. They knew the Kaithara would use bioplasma weapons. How could they know that? Captain, the human ships are now within weapons range. Fire warning shots, Zarathul ordered. Show them our power. 2 bioplasma bolts shot from the endless growth. They were bright green and crackled with energy. Each bolt had enough power to destroy a small space station. They passed just in front of the human ships, but the human ships did not slow down. They did not change course. They continued moving straight toward the Kaithara vessel. They must be insane, whispered the science. Officer Commander Chun's voice came through the communication system again. Kaithara vessel, you fired on us. We consider that a hostile act. You have 5 seconds to stand down. Stand down? Zarathul shouted. We are the Kaithara Collective. We do not stand down for anyone. 3 seconds, came Chun's calm voice. Fire. All weapons, Zarathul commanded. Destroy those ships. The endless growth unleashed its full power. Dozens of bioplasma cannons fired at once. The space between the ships filled with deadly green energy. Enough firepower to destroy a city rained down on the 3 human vessels. For a moment, the human ships disappeared in the bright light of the plasma barrage. Zarathul smiled. No ship could survive that much concentrated fire. Then the light faded. The human ships were still there. They were still moving. They were completely undamaged. Impossible, Zarathul whispered. Captain, the sensor officer said, his voice shaking. Our plasma bolts hit their ships directly. But the energy it just disappeared. Their hulls absorbed everything. Scan their armor, Zarathul ordered. What is it made of? I cannot tell, Captain. My instruments show simple metal alloys. Iron, titanium, some carbon composites. Nothing special. Nothing that should be able to absorb bioplasma. Zarathul watched in horror as the human ships continued their approach. They were close now, close enough that she could see details on their hulls. The metal was scarred and burned in many places. These ships had been in battles before. "Captain," the weapons officer said, "the human ships are charging weapons." "What kind of weapons?" I do not know. I have never seen anything like them." Suddenly, the space around the endless growth filled with small objects. They moved too fast to track clearly, but Zarathul could see they came from the human. "Ships? Missiles?" asked the science officer. "No," replied the sensor officer. "They are too small, too fast. They look like ... metal projectiles." The projectiles hit the endless growth. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then Zarathul felt her ship shudder. The living walls around her pulsed with pain. "Damage report," she commanded. "Hull. Breaches on decks 7 through 12, came the reply. "The projectiles went completely through our armor. They made small holes, but they penetrated everything." Zarathul could not believe it. The endless growth's living armor was designed to adapt to any weapon. It should have hardened against the projectiles after the first few hits. Instead, the human weapons kept punching through as if the armor was not there. How is this possible? She asked. Her science officer was studying his instruments frantically. "Captain, the human projectiles are not energy weapons. They are physical objects moving at incredible speed. Our armor adapts to energy, heat, and radiation. But these are simple metal bullets traveling at nearly the speed of light." Bullets? Zarathul had heard the term before. Some primitive species used simple projectile weapons, but those were slow and weak. These human bullets were faster than her ship's plasma bolts. "Captain," the communications officer interrupted. "Commander Chun is contacting us again." The human's image appeared once. More. She still looked calm, but now there was something else in her eyes. Something cold and dangerous. "Cathara vessel," Chun said. "You have fired on us twice. We have responded with minimal force. Our next response will not be minimal. Stand down now." "We are the Cathara Collective," Zarathul shouted. "We do not. Surrender to primitives." "Then you have chosen," Chun replied. "All human ships prepare for full engagement. Target their weapon systems first. We'll try to disable them." Captain Zarathul ran through the corridors of her dying ship. The endless growth was no longer the proud vessel it had been an hour ago. Its living walls were pale and cold. The bioluminescent patterns that had once pulsed with health now flickered weakly. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of human boots on metal floors. They had cutting tools that sliced through her ship's living armor like it was paper. They had weapons that stunned her crew without killing them. Most terrifying of all, they seemed to know exactly where they were going. "Captain." Her communications officer caught up with her, breathing hard. "The humans have taken the engine room and the bridge. They control our life support systems." "How?" Zarathul gasped. "How do they know our ship's layout?" "Cathara bioships are grown, not built. Each one is unique. I do not know, Captain. But they are not destroying anything. They are studying everything." Zarathul stopped running. She leaned against a wall that felt cold and sick under her touch. Through the ship's internal sensors, she could feel humans moving through every deck. They were not looting or destroying. They were examining her ship like scientists studying a new species. Captain Zarathul. The voice came from speakers throughout the corridor. It was Commander Chun. "Please report to your bridge. We need to talk." Zarathul had no choice. Her ship was captured. Her crew was stunned but alive. If she wanted to keep them that way, she had to cooperate. The walk to the bridge felt like walking to her own execution. Cathara warriors lined the corridors, but they were not fighting. They sat against the walls, looking confused and defeated. Human soldiers stood guard over them. The humans were smaller than Cathara, but they carried weapons that hummed with dangerous energy. When Zarathul reached the bridge, she stopped in shock. Commander Chun stood in the center of the flower-like command center, but she was not alone. A dozen humans worked at stations throughout the bridge. They had connected their own equipment to the Cathara systems. "What are you doing to my ship?" Zarathul demanded. Chun looked up from a device she was studying, learning. "Your biotechnology is fascinating. We've never seen anything like it. You cannot understand our systems. They are alive. They require a neural connection with Cathara biology." Chun smiled. "Actually, we figured that out about 10 minutes ago." She held up a small device. "This neural interface translator allows us to communicate with your ship's biological systems." "It's crude, but it works." Zarathul stared at the device. Her people had spent thousands of years developing the technology to grow living ships. The neural connection process took years of training. These humans had duplicated it in minutes. "Impossible," she whispered. "That's what everyone keeps saying," Chun replied. "But you're the third species this month to tell us something was impossible right before we did it." "Third species?" "The hegemony said it was impossible for us to absorb their plasma weapons. The Synthesis Collective said it was impossible for us to jam their quantum computers. Now you're saying it's impossible for us to interface with biotech." Chun shrugged. "Maybe you should stop saying things are impossible." One of the human technicians looked up from his work. "Commander, we finished mapping their ship's systems. The biological components are more advanced than we thought. They can actually evolve during combat." "Show me," Chun said. The technician touched his controls. Above their heads, a three-dimensional image of the endless growth appeared. Different colors showed different systems. As they watched, parts of the image changed and shifted. "The ship's armor adapts to whatever attacks it," the technician explained. "After it takes damage from energy weapons, it grows thicker and more resistant. After it encounters new threats, it develops countermeasures." "Fascinating," Chun said. "That explains why our first few shots didn't penetrate as deeply as they should have. The armor was learning." Zarathul found her voice. "If you understand our systems, then you know why your weapons should not work. Our armor adapts to everything." "Everything you've encountered before," Chun corrected. "But you've never fought humans. What makes humans different?" Zarathul asked. Chun walked over to one of the Cathara control stations. She placed her hand on the living surface. "May I show you something from our history?" Before Zarathul could answer, images began appearing in the air. They showed a blue and green planet covered with white clouds. It looked peaceful and beautiful. "Our homeworld," Chun said. "Earth. Looks nice, doesn't it?" The image changed. Now it showed the same planet, but parts of it were on fire. Huge mushroom clouds rose from the surface. Cities burned. Oceans boiled. "For most of our history, we fought each other," Chun continued. "Not small fights over territory or resources. Real wars. Wars that killed millions of people. Wars that poisoned our air and water. Wars that nearly destroyed our entire species." More images appeared. Humans in crude armor, fighting with metal swords. Humans in uniforms firing primitive guns. Humans in vehicles shooting explosive shells. Each image showed more advanced weapons, more terrible destruction. "We got very good at killing," Chun said quietly. "We learned to build weapons that could destroy anything. Weapons that could kill from across continents. Weapons that could end all life on our planet." Zarathul watched in horror as the images showed weapons beyond her imagination. Bombs that could level mountains. Diseases that could wipe out entire populations. Machines that could think and kill without human control. But we also got very good at surviving, Chun continued. Every weapon we built, we had to build defenses against. Every way we learned to kill, we had to learn to protect ourselves from. The images changed again. Now they showed humans building shelters deep underground. Humans creating armor that could stop any bullet. Humans developing medicines that could cure any disease. By the time we stopped fighting each other and looked at the stars, we had learned something no other species in the galaxy has learned. What? Zarathul asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. How to fight an enemy that adapts. Chun touched the controls again. The images showed human ships under construction. But these were not the ships Zarathul had seen in space. These were older, simpler versions. Our first starships were built to fight other humans, Chun explained. Humans who might have weapons we had never seen before. Humans who might have defenses we had never encountered. Humans who might be smarter than us, or stronger than us, or more advanced than us. The images showed the ships changing over time. Each generation was more complex, more heavily armed, more heavily defended. We built our ships to fight enemies we could not imagine. We gave them armor that could stop weapons that did not exist. We gave them weapons that could destroy defenses that had never been built. We prepared for every possible threat. Zarathul began to understand. Your ships are not built for exploration. No, Chen agreed. They are built for war. But not just any war. They are built for the kind of war where the enemy learns from every battle, where the enemy adapts to every attack, where the enemy becomes stronger after every defeat. Like my ship's armor, Zarathul said. Exactly like your ship's armor. Your biotechnology is impressive, but it follows predictable patterns. It adapts to energy, so we use kinetic weapons. It adapts to heat, so we use cold. It adapts to known threats, so we use unknown ones. Chun walked to the center of the bridge. Around her, human technicians continued their work. They were dismantling Kathara systems and studying them piece by piece. Your ship learned to defend against plasma weapons after we hit it a few times, Chun said. So we switched to railguns. When it started to adapt to those, we switched to viral countermeasures. When it began developing resistance to our disruptors, we used neural scramblers. You have weapons for everything, Zarathul said. Not weapons, countermeasures. There is a difference. We do not build tools to destroy. We build tools to overcome. One of the human technicians called out, Commander, we've identified the ship's growth protocols. The biological systems can be reprogrammed. Chun nodded. Can we enhance them? Possibly. The base genetic code is very flexible. With a few modifications, we could improve their adaptation speed by 30%. Zarathul could not believe what she was hearing. You want to improve our ships? Why not? Chun asked. Your biotechnology is amazing. Our adaptive countermeasure systems are amazing. Combined, they could create something neither of our species could build alone. You would share your technology with us? We would share knowledge with anyone who wants to learn. That is why we came to the stars. Not to conquer, but to discover. Chun touched another control. The images above their heads changed to show human colonies. But these were not military bases. They were cities, farms, research stations. Humans living peaceful lives among the stars. We are explorers, Captain Zarathul. We left Earth because we wanted to see what was out there. We wanted to meet other species, learn from them, maybe teach them something in return. Then why do you have such powerful warships? Chun's expression became serious. Because we learned a long time ago that peace is only possible when everyone knows the cost of war. We do not want to fight. But if someone forces us to fight, we will win. Quickly, decisively. And then we will help them rebuild. Zarathal looked around her captured bridge. The humans had taken her. Admiral Corvash stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Star Crusher. Around him, the bridge crew worked in perfect silence. The ship was the pride of the Imperial Navy, built with the finest technology in the galaxy. Its hull was made of quantum-stabilized matter. Its weapons could tear holes in space itself. The Admiral was reading reports from across the galaxy. Each report told the same impossible story. Human ships were appearing everywhere, and they were winning every battle. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we have another report from the Synthesis Collective. What happened this time?" Corvash asked. The humans encountered a synthesis fleet near the Vega system. 12 ships with full AI control, and predictive combat algorithms, and the human ships jammed their artificial intelligence somehow. The synthesis vessels could not think clearly. They made tactical errors and were captured in minutes. Corvash crumpled the report in his fist. How can primitives jam quantum AI systems? The report says the humans used something called cognitive disruptors. They broadcast patterns that confuse the artificial minds. Impossible. Synthesis AI systems are protected against every known form of electronic warfare. Yes, Admiral, but apparently not against human electronic warfare. Corvash walked to the main display. It showed a map of the galaxy with red dots, marking human encounters. There were dozens of them now, scattered across known space. Every dot represented another impossible victory. "Show me the report from the Luminous Reach," he ordered. His science officer brought up the file. The energy beings tried to possess human ships by entering their computer systems. The humans somehow ... trapped them. Trapped energy beings? Yes, Admiral. The humans had devices they called ghost traps. They contained the luminous entities in small boxes and refused to release them until the energy beings agreed to talk peacefully. Corvash shook his head. Energy beings were pure thought and power. They could not be contained by physical devices. Yet somehow the humans had done exactly that. What about the Overmind Collective? Worse, Admiral. The telepaths tried to take control of human minds during a diplomatic meeting. The humans were ready for them. They wore something called psych shields that blocked telepathic contact completely. No species has ever developed defenses against telepathy, Corvash said. The humans have, Admiral. And their shields do not just block telepathic attacks, they reflect them. 3 Overmind psychics are still in mental hospitals, recovering from having their own powers turned against them. Corvash studied the map. Again, the red dots were spreading. More human ships appeared every day. Each encounter followed the same pattern. The aliens would attack or threaten. The humans would defend themselves. The aliens would discover that their most advanced weapons were useless. Then the humans would capture or disable the alien ships without killing anyone. They are studying. U.S., Corvash realized. Sir? His first officer asked. The humans, they are not just defeating us. They are learning from us. Every species they encounter teaches them something new. Every battle gives them more knowledge about galactic technology. Corvash touched a control. The display zoomed in on one section of space. Look at this pattern. The humans encountered the hegemony first. They learned about plasma weapons. Then they met the Kaithara and learned about biotechnology. After that, they faced the synthesis and learned about artificial intelligence. His officers gathered around the display. They could see what their admiral meant. The human encounters were not random. They formed a pattern that covered more and more of the galaxy. They are mapping our capabilities, his science officer said. Each contact gives them information about a different type of technology. Exactly. And now they know about energy, manipulation, telepathy, and quantum AI systems. They have countermeasures for every major technology in the galaxy. "What should we do, Admiral?" asked his first officer. Corvash was quiet for a long moment. The Imperial Navy had not faced a real challenge in 1,000 years. They controlled the most powerful fleets in known space. Their ships were perfect, killing machines, but every report said the same thing. Human ships should not exist. They used simple materials and basic construction methods. Yet they were stronger than Imperial dreadnoughts. They were faster than Imperial interceptors. They carried weapons that the Imperial computers could not identify. "Admiral," his communications officer interrupted, "we are receiving a priority message from Imperial Command." "Put it through." The face of Grand Admiral Vexmore appeared on the main screen. He was old and covered with scars from 100 battles. He had never lost a single engagement. "Corvash," Vexmore said, "you will take the 3rd Battle Fleet to the Sol system. The humans' home world is there. You will destroy it before they can spread any further." "Grand Admiral, with respect, our intelligence reports suggest that human ships are more dangerous than we first believed. I have read the reports. I do not believe them. No primitive species can threaten the Imperial Navy. You will take 500 ships and end this threat." The transmission ended. Corvash stared at the blank screen. 500 ships was a massive force. It was enough firepower to destroy a dozen star systems. "Admiral," his first officer said quietly, "what if the reports are true? What if human ships really are as powerful as they seem?" "Then we will learn the truth very quickly," Corvash replied. "Order the fleet to prepare for departure. We leave for Sol System in 6 hours." As his crew rushed to carry out the orders, Corvash continued studying the intelligence reports. There was something strange about the human battles, something that bothered him. "Computer," he said, "analyze all human combat encounters. Look for tactical patterns." The ship's AI processed the data quickly. "Analysis complete, Admiral. Human ships always attempt communication before engaging. They offer surrender terms to enemies. They provide medical aid to defeated foes. They are warriors with honor," Corvash said. "What about their actual fighting methods?" "Human tactics focus on ending battles as quickly as possible. They use overwhelming force applied." "Precisely. They disable rather than destroy when possible. They seem to have prepared countermeasures for weapons they have never encountered before." That was what bothered Corvash. How could a species prepare for unknown threats? How could they have defenses against weapons they had never seen? "Computer, access human historical records. What can you tell me about their military development?" "Records are limited, Admiral. However, available data suggests that humans spent approximately 12,000 years in continuous warfare on their home planet." 12,000 years? Corvash was shocked. Most species had small conflicts that lasted a few decades at most. "What did they fight about?" "Everything, Admiral. Territory, resources, religion, ideology, survival. Human history is a continuous cycle of war, peace, and more war. They developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet multiple times." Corvash felt a chill run down his spine. A species that had spent 12 millennia perfecting the art of war would think very differently than other races. "Computer, show me human weapon development over time." Images appeared on the screen. They started with simple stone tools and progressed through bronze, iron, and steel. Then came explosives, firearms, and chemical weapons. The progression accelerated through nuclear bombs, biological weapons, and laser systems. But what disturbed Corvash most was the pattern. For every new weapon humans developed, they also developed defenses against it. When they created poison gas, they created gas masks. When they built nuclear bombs, they built fallout shelters. When they developed lasers, They developed reflective armor. They assume their enemies will use their own weapons against them, Corvash realized. Every human weapon system includes countermeasures against itself. Yes, Admiral? Human military. Doctrine appears to be based on fighting enemies with equal or superior technology. That explained everything. Human ships were not designed to fight primitive aliens. They were designed to fight other humans with advanced technology. They were built to face enemies who might be smarter, stronger, and better equipped. When humans met aliens with plasma weapons, they already had plasma defenses. When they encountered biotechnology, they already had biological countermeasures. When they faced telepaths, they already had mental shields. They had spent 12,000 years preparing for every possible threat. They had built their starships to fight enemies they could not imagine, using weapons they had never seen. Admiral, his sensor officer called out, "We are detecting human ships approaching our position." Corvash looked at the tactical display. 3 small human vessels were moving toward his massive fleet. They looked tiny compared to the Imperial dreadnoughts. "How many ships are we facing?" he asked. 3, Admiral. They appear to be the same class as the vessels that defeated the other fleets. Corvash almost laughed. 3 ships against 500? Even if human technology was advanced, the numbers were impossible. "Open communications?" he ordered. A moment later, the face of a human appeared on the screen. It was a woman with short, gray hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no decorations. "I am Admiral Sarah Martinez of the United Earth Defense Force," she said. "You are violating the space of the Solar Federation. Please state your intentions." The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was not quiet this time. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Fear and anger filled the air like smoke. Emergency sessions had been called by 12 different species, all demanding action against the human threat. Ambassador Zithkar sat in his floating chair, watching the chaos with his 3 eyes. 6 months had passed since his warning. 6 months since the council had laughed at him and refused to establish a quarantine zone around. Human space. Now, no one was laughing. Counselor Vexania raised her crystalline arms for silence. The crowd slowly quieted, but tension still crackled. Through the hall, like electricity. "We are here to address the human situation," she announced. In the past month, human fleets have encountered forces from dozens of major civilizations. Every engagement has ended with human victory. "Not victory," interrupted General Corvash. "Humiliation. My fleet of 500 ships was surrounded and captured without firing a single shot. The humans knew about our classified weapons before. We used them. They had countermeasures ready for technologies they should never have seen." "The same happened to us," said Captain Zarathul. She was no longer an enemy of humanity. She had become their ally, but even she looked troubled. "The humans did not just defeat us. They absorbed our biotechnology and made it better. They learned in hours what took us centuries to develop." "They are collectors," said Admiral Synthara of the Quantum Collective. "They take the best technology from every species they encounter. They are building a fleet more advanced than anything in galactic history." "That is not true," said a new voice. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. It was Commander Sarah Chun, the human who had defeated the Cathara Collective. She walked calmly to the center platform, ignoring the angry stares from thousands of aliens. "Humans were not invited to this session," Vexania said coldly. "No," Sean agreed. "But since you are discussing what to do about us, we thought we should participate. Unless you prefer to make decisions based on incomplete information." Murmurs of anger rippled through the crowd. Many species called for Chun to be removed. But she stood her ground, calm and unafraid. "You said we are collectors," Chun continued. "That is partially correct. We do learn from every species we meet, but we also share what we learn. Captain Zarathul, has your biotechnology improved since our encounter? Zarathul nodded reluctantly. Yes, human adaptive systems have made our ships 30% more effective. Our crews are safer, and our vessels heal faster from damage. Admiral Corvash, what happened when your scientists studied our quantum dampening fields? Corvash looked uncomfortable. Our ships are now immune to our own quantum torpedoes. If another species tried to use similar weapons against us, they would fail. And Admiral Synthara, how have your reality distortion systems changed? Synthara refused to answer, but another member of her species spoke up. They are more stable. Now, the dimensional rifts no longer collapse randomly. Our ships are safer to operate. Sean nodded. We do not take technology from other species. We study it, understand it, and then teach everyone how to make it better, including the species that developed it originally. Why? Demanded General. Korash, why share your knowledge with potential enemies? Because we learned something during our 12,000 years of warfare, Sean replied. The best way to prevent future conflicts is to make sure everyone is equally strong. When no one has a significant advantage, war becomes pointless. That is madness, said Vexania. If everyone has the same weapons, the galaxy will descend into chaos. Will it? Sean asked. Tell me, when was the last time the Kathara Collective and the Imperial Navy fought each other? 50 years ago, Corvash answered. And why did you stop fighting? Because ... Corvash paused. Because the battles became too costly. Both sides had developed such powerful defenses that neither could win decisively. Exactly. When both sides are equally matched, negotiation becomes more attractive than warfare. That is what we want for the entire galaxy. You want to control us, accused Admiral Synthara. If we wanted to control you, would we be here talking? Sean asked. My ship is alone in a room full of our former enemies. If humans wanted galactic domination, this would be a very poor strategy. She touched a device on her belt. Above her head, images appeared showing human colonies across the galaxy. But these were not military bases. They were research stations, farming communities, and trading posts. This is what humanity is building, Sean said. Centers of learning and commerce. We are establishing universities where any species can study. Human technology. We are creating markets where all civilizations can trade freely. We are building a foundation for lasting peace. Peace? General Corvash laughed bitterly. You have the most powerful fleet in galactic history. You could conquer anyone you choose. We could, Sean agreed. But we have learned that conquest creates more problems than it solves. When you conquer someone, you make them your enemy forever. When you help them become stronger, you make them your ally. The images above Chon's head changed to show human ships working alongside vessels from dozens of other species. Former enemies were now cooperating on joint missions. This is impossible, said Vexania. Species that have fought for thousands of years cannot simply become friends. They can when they have a common goal, Chun replied, and when they realize that cooperation benefits everyone more than conflict. What common goal? Asked Zethkar. Chun smiled. Survival. You see, the galaxy is about to face a threat much larger than any single species. Something that will require all of our civilizations working together. The hall became silent. Even the most hostile beings stopped talking to listen. What threat? Vexania demanded. The Devourers, Chun said simply. Gasps and frightened noises came from across the hall. The Devourers were a legend, a story told to frighten children. They were supposed to be machines from another galaxy that consumed everything in their path. The Devourers are a myth, said Admiral Synthara, but her voice shook. "Are they?" Sean asked. She touched her device again. New images appeared, showing deep space telescopes pointed at the void between galaxies. 3 months ago, our long-range sensors detected gravitational anomalies at the edge of the galaxy. Something massive is approaching. Multiple somethings, actually. They are still 2 years away, but we can already measure their effects on local space-time. The images showed computer models of the approaching objects. They were enormous, bigger, and planets, and there were thousands of them. Our analysis suggests they are artificial constructs designed for one purpose: to consume matter and convert it into more of themselves. They appear to be the same machines described in your ancient legends. "Why should we believe you?" asked General Corvash. "This could be human propaganda designed to make us cooperate." Chun nodded. "You are right to be suspicious. That is why we are sharing all of our sensor data with every species in the galaxy. You can verify our findings with your own instruments." She gestured to the images above her head. "The Devourers will reach the Outer Rim territories in 24 months. Based on the legends, they will consume everything in their path. Planets, stars, entire solar systems will be converted into raw materials for their expansion." "Even if this is true," said Vexania, "what can we do? If these machines destroyed entire galaxies in the past, how can we stop them?" "By working together," Sean replied. "Alone, none of our species has the technology to fight the Devourers. But combined, we might have a chance." "Explain," demanded Admiral Synthara. "Cathara biotechnology can create self-repairing ships that adapt to enemy attacks. Imperial quantum manipulation can create weapons that ignore conventional defenses. Synthesis artificial intelligence can coordinate fleets of millions of vessels. Luminous energy beings can power weapons beyond our current capabilities." Chun paused and looked around the hall. "Every species in this room has developed something unique, something that could be crucial in the coming battle. But only if we share our knowledge and work as one." "You want us to give you all of our military secrets," accused General Corvash. "I want us to give each other our military secrets," Chun corrected. "Humans will share everything we know. Our adaptive defense systems, our reality manipulation weapons, our stealth technology, everything. And in return? In return, you share your knowledge with us and with each other. We combine the best ideas from every civilization and create defenses that no single species could build alone." The hall was quiet for a long moment. The beings in the crowd looked at each other uncertainly. Some species had been enemies for thousands of years. The idea of sharing their most advanced technology was terrifying. "How do we know you will not use our technology against us after the Devourers are defeated?" asked Vexania. "Because by then, you will have our technology too," Sean replied. "Mutual assured defense. When everyone has the same weapons, no one can dominate anyone else." "This is madness," said Admiral Synthara. "You are asking us to trust our greatest enemies." "No," Sean said quietly. "I am asking you to stop thinking of each other as enemies. The Devourers do not care about your politics or your territorial disputes. They will consume Cathara biotechnology and Imperial quantum.